Your life is music. Make sure mine. It is the sound of vibration, pulse, emotion, loudness, softness. It is reason combined with powerful feeling. Your life can be summarized by songs, symphonies, a cappella chants, and hymns. You are the music that moves you. A soundtrack exists to your life story. It might be filled with desperate country songs or inspired by soaring, powerful orchestral works. If you're like most people, the music that you hear is different in different times of your life. Music is important to me. I know that I have very little musical talent, but the sounds that I hear are more powerful than I think I can imagine most things being. I cannot block out music. Even when it is unpleasant to me or does not express what I am feeling. Sometimes I'm totally taken when I hear something beautiful played at the orchestra. Sometimes I feel the anger of youth when a song comes on that reminds me of the past. Music reminds me of times in my life when I was happy and also when I was sad. Whenever I hear the song from West Side Story, "Somewhere There's a Place for Us," I think of hearing it sung by a woman at my wedding more than 7 years ago. I specifically requested that song because it moved me so much when I was younger and heard it during that movie. And it expressed powerfully the strain of Tony and Maria's love that could not be accepted by 1950s society. There I stood on my wedding day, acknowledging that I, a Southern white man, would be marrying a beautiful African American woman. It felt shocking to me at the time that I had come so far from my roots, and when I was a child, our wedding could not have been celebrated in my home state of Georgia. More shocking to me than that was that my extended family welcomed my wife into our family and showed up for the wedding. I felt that there really was a place for us, but so much had changed for the world of my childhood for our life to happen together. Other pieces of music were less profound. In my lifetime, I have moved about 25 times. Most of the time, I choose a moving song, some piece of music that I think or sing to myself as I pack or unpack. One move into a Tudor-style cottage in Chattanooga, Tennessee, I chose a grand piece by the English composer Michael Tippett. I will never forget the terrible move into a low rent apartment when I chose to sing a song from The Wizard of Oz, "If I Only Had a Brain." Unfortunately, that move proved that I did not at the time. When I think upon it, sometimes the saddest times in my life, when I did not have much music, when silence permeated me and my thoughts had little rhythm. When I was in high school, life was like that. Those 4 years were 4 long years for me. I cannot recall any song that was popular during my adolescence. Obviously, there were songs sung in the late 1970s, but none of them spoke to me. Similarly, I remember the week after the terrorist attacks on September 11th. It was the only time in my adulthood that I remember hearing no music. On September 12th, I sat in my living room surfing the internet. It was the day after September 11th, and the whole country seemed to be rather depressed. It was a warm day, and my windows were up. My neighbor decided to put the radio on as he worked on his car, and the sounds were entirely of news reports. Grim news. His 3-year-old child was in his backyard. Above the sound of the news report, I heard the child singing a nursery rhyme. Old MacDonald had a farm. He sang that song unaware of the sadness that had overtaken all the adults. He sang that song with all the gusto he could. At the end of the song, the child laughed. That song and that laughter were the only music and the only laughter that I heard in the next 5 days. I was grateful for that child for finding joy at a time when the world seemed joyless. He reminded me that music would return as well. Who knew? Who would ever have imagined that Old MacDonald had a farm could provoke such strong emotions? That's the nature of music. Psychological studies tell that the sense of smell stirs memories more powerfully than any other sense. That may be, but I do not dance when I smell a rose. It is music that draws the memories out of me, that enables me to relive moments of my life vividly. I can still remember hearing this hymn sung the first morning that I entered a Unitarian Universalist church. It seemed so plain, and I did not like it. Yet all the following week, it played over and over in my head, breaking through my resistance. Annie Lamott writes of something similar in hearing music in church. She says, "Then the singing enveloped me. It was furry and resonant, coming from everyone's heart. There was no sense of performance or judgment, only that the music was breath and food." The music that Annie Lamott heard was not perfect, but it was true. It sounded the way it did because the people who sang it believed it. It came out because they felt the joy and pathos that is lived in community. That was what I experienced that first Sunday I entered the Unitarian Universalist Church of Chattanooga. Where does the music come from? Why do we humans need to make sounds that qualify as music? This is one of the mysteries of human nature. Music seems so instinctive to us that we do not question why we listen, why we sing, why we caress sounds from instruments. These actions are so innate to human nature that philosophers and theologians have pondered this. Reformation leader Martin Luther believed that music was a gift from God to carry away all the troubles of human life and to spite demonic forces. He wrote, "The devil, the originator of sorrowful anxieties and restless troubles, flees before the sound of music almost as much as before the word of God. Music is a gift and grace of God, not an invention of men. Thus it drives out the devil and makes people cheerful. Then one forgets all wrath, impunity, and other devices." He also wrote in his own earthy way, and Martin Luther was a very earthy theologian, "A person who does not regard music as a marvelous creation of God must be a clodhopper, indeed, and does not deserve to be called a human being. He should be permitted to hear nothing but the braying of asses and the grunting of hogs." He was a very earthy theologian. And he was also a man of strong opinions. I cannot agree with him on many things, but even more modern people believe that music has a divine origin. Writer, humanist, and sometimes Unitarian Universalist Kurt Vonnegut similarly wrote, "Music is to me proof of the existence of God. It is so extraordinarily full of magic, and in tough times of my life I can listen to music and it makes a difference." While some of us might not believe that music is a gift of God or proof for the very existence of God, science tells us that the music of the spheres is very real. It sounds like something out of medieval thought, but the universe is filled with sound so omnipresent that we cannot hear it distinctly. The planets actually do make sounds they spin. The natural world is full of sound. A friend told me about a sound that is present everywhere and is seemingly imperceptible to the human ear. In the 20th century, astrophysicists were studying vibrations and heard a pulse-like sound with sophisticated instruments. They wondered where the sound was coming from. Everywhere they aimed their devices, they heard the sound. It was everywhere. They found it was also in space. They named this phenomenon cosmic background radiation. It's a pulse-like sound found in all the universe. Some scientists believe that cosmic background radiation is the echo of the Big Bang that brought everything into existence. We are consciously unaware of this sound. It is possible that we perceive it though in ways that we cannot understand and are trying to speak to it or sing with it. Einstein was aware of this music and wrote that music was of the greatest importance to his life. He felt that his life was music more than science. He wrote, "If I were not a physicist, I would probably be a musician. I often think in music. I live my daydreams in music. I see my life in terms of music." It's interesting. You would have thought that he would have seen his life in terms of science, but music was more important. Our lives are probably not as gifted with the brilliance of Einstein, but they are still filled with music. Whether the gift of God or the echo of creation, our lives are also lived in terms of music. Moments of truth sung or played, times when we felt love or the presence of God, times when music took us out of despair or took us deeper into the reality of the human condition. Whatever your life has been, it has been sung or played to music. Your life is music. Music tells the truth of your life. You weep when you hear a song that tells of how you feel. You are moved by the piece that was played at a loved one's funeral. You tap your feet and perhaps dance when music elicits the joy bottled up inside you. Your spirit hears and understands better than your purely rational mind can possibly conceive when that sacred space is touched. We are music. May that truth be with us, and may we share the music within ourselves and blend it into the most heavenly chorus, regardless of whether our voices sound to us like those of angels or of something else. We have a message to impart. Let us sing it to the depths of our being. This is an experimental Sunday. You are participating in an experiment. We decided that it would be good for the congregation's spiritual life to have sacred conversations, which we are calling Spirit Talk. This is something that was tried at other congregations and has been very successful. And we thought, the worship committee thought, that this might be a good thing for us to try today. And Sherry will now hand out some discussion questions. And part of this Sunday service is that we break into discussion groups. So here is something else. You'll notice that there is a little number on your discussion question form. Well, that tells you which group you're going to be in. And we're going to break out for about 10 minutes, and we're just going to talk. You don't have to answer all the questions that are on there. If you just start it with a good conversation, don't make the questions your guide necessarily. It's not your map for the future. Just let the conversation flow. So now the chaos ensues as you decide to find each other. And I think maybe the ones might go over here, the twos over there, the threes back there, fours and fives and sixes. And sevens? Oh, sevens too. Although it can be difficult to discuss music, and as Steve Martin said, talking about music is like dancing about architecture. We have tried today to explain ourselves through the music that is important to us. W.H. Auden tells us that music is the best means we have of digesting time. Perhaps by considering the songs that express our pain or joy, we can begin to digest them, to resolve the issues of the past, and incorporate the joys of our youth into our older years. Finally, I want to leave you with this thought from Unitarian Universalist Albert Schweitzer. He writes, "There are two means of refuge from the miseries of life, music and cats. May our lives be rich in both." Now, if you can find a hymnal, that's one of those things we haven't planned for, but if you can find a hymnal, or if you can share a hymnal with somebody else, let's now stand as we are able for our closing hymn, number 21.